And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, Dianna, we're not going to make it because we're going to buy a cruise line. And we were like, what? What? You're going to do what? We're a national park hotel company.
The biggest risk is not to take a risk. I called my wife and I said, if I would have known how wonderful the atmosphere on a small ship like this is, I would have changed 20 years earlier.
Hello and welcome. My name is Bava and I'm the Chief Commercial Officer for Windstar Cruises. And I am so excited to be here today because this has been a dream in the making for quite some time. And I'm just very, very excited because today we are starting our very first podcast episode here at Windstar Cruises. And we thought we would take the theme of really highlighting some of the people of Windstar that make this amazing cruise line so special. And so I actually just grabbed my first guest at the office. We ran down here to Miami, said, where can we find a podcast room, and start talking about why we love Windstar. So without further ado, I would love to introduce to you my dear colleague and friend, Dianna Rom, who is the head of sales for Windstar Cruises. Welcome, Dianna.
Thank you. Thank you. And when you say that we rushed down here and you grabbed me, like that's not a joke. Like you grabbed me. I was sitting in an office on a call and you grabbed me. Yes. I didn't even know what I was doing. How funny.
So many people don't know that we actually moved our headquarters of Windstar to Miami, and we are actually hosting a commercial meeting this week. We have a lot of things to cover this week here in Miami. The last thing Dianna thought we were going to be doing today was actually recording a podcast, but I knew if someone was going to come here and speak from the heart, it was going to be you. So please, for those listening in, can you introduce yourself? And I said she's the head of sales, but what exactly does that mean?
So we actually work with the trade. I mean, with sales, we're selling everything. It doesn't matter if we're selling a cruise or we're selling shore excursions or we're selling ourselves. So we have a team, an incredible team that works on the road. We call them our regional sales managers, and we engage with the trade on a daily basis in a variety of different ways.
And when you say the trade, you mean the travel advisors who sell us, the travel agency owners who they work for or they're incorporated with, and also the national accounts and consortia, right? Like the virtuosos, the signatures that have this huge network of travel agents, all over the world that represent them.
Right, and the host agencies as well, and that's really probably one of our fastest growing target market right now is those host agencies.
Yes.
And it's like, Nexion and cruise planners, and there's so many out there that I'm not including right now, but there's many, many, many.
And we will mention them. This is just the first episode, and this will not be the last time Dianna will be on, so we will mention all of them. So you're the head of sales. Can you tell us a little bit about how and when did you start with Windstar Cruises? Because this is all about the people of Windstar. And the other reason why I grabbed you first is because I think you're one of our longest standing employees. Is that correct?
Probably, but.
And that's not aging her.
Yeah. This isn't ageism. I've actually been with the company for 25 years now.
Amazing.
So even before Windstar was part of our company, I was with, at the time it was called AmFact, now called Xanterra.
Yes.
And we managed national parks, and I was in the state park system, and then moved over to Windstar about 10 years ago.
Okay, so for those of you who also don't know, Windstar was actually acquired by Xanterra Travel Collection. Right. How long ago was that? It was
in 2011, I believe.
Okay, yeah, so quite some time.
Right.
And so they acquired this amazing cruise line, and a lot of things have changed since then. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I can even tell you the day that it happened. So, when we were purchased by our current owner, and I was in the parks, and we were expecting all the VPs were coming to the parks to walk through, do our budget. I can't even remember exactly what it was. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, Dianna, we're not going to make it because we're going to buy a cruise line. And we were like, what? What? You're going to do what? We're a national park hotel company. And it was really about 2 weeks later that we owned this cruise line, and
Amazing.
We were all kind of navigating our way through. But a lot has changed since then. I mean, at the time it was more about managing parks and park systems, and now it's about what we can purchase, what we can grow, where we can really leave an imprint in the world. And I couldn't be prouder to be with this company.
Yes, and you know what? You really do, when you speak from the heart and the soul. We are so fortunate here at Windstar Cruises. I myself actually only joined about a year and a half ago. And I remember very well because the person who had my role prior to me, Betsy O'Rourke, my predecessor, I remember very well when she took on the role of head of marketing and then became the head of commercial for Xanterra.
Right.
And I remember watching this company very closely because I really thought, wow, it would be amazing to see what Betsy will do with this cruise brand that I think has incredible potential. And so back then, when it was acquired, we only had 3 sail ships, correct?
That is correct.
So can you tell them a little bit about what transpired since 2011? Because I think we've come a long way since then.
We have, and we had 3 aging cruise ships that were not even part of any brand. They were part of another large brand, and they had gone to a consolidator who was supposed to be selling them. And they came to our cruise line, and immediately our owner invested a great deal of money in renovating those ships so that they were beautiful. And again, we were proud at that moment. It was a couple years after that, that he bought the Star Class ships at the time. And again, he brought these 3 beautiful ships. The Breeze, the Legend, and the Pride came in as, and they were more traditional ships. And again, invested a lot of money. And then, as you know, we just invested another over $200 million in renovation. And he's continued to grow this brand. I mean, it's not just our passion, the people who work, it's his passion as well. I mean, he's really taken these ships and made them so beautiful. And, we used to just be a cruise line. Now, honestly, I think we're one of the best cruise lines that we have out there.
And I absolutely will agree with that because honestly, having worked for other cruise lines, I actually consider myself a cruise lifer. So through your trajectory of national parks, my trajectory has actually been through the cruise lines. And I've worked for mass market cruise lines, and I've had the fortune to work for river cruise brands and luxury cruise brands. And these last 18 months, I can absolutely see why there has been so much investment in the small ship brands. Our largest ship, the Windsurf. No, I have the Wind Spirit behind me. She's 350 passengers. Then we have the Star Class ships, which they were cut in half and stretched and made only to be 312 passenger motor yachts.
Right.
And then we have the little baby Wind Class ships, which is the Wind Spirit that I have behind me and the Windstar. And all of them, we've been so fortunate to have an ownership that even through the pandemic, right? Because, we all suffered through the pandemic, we were able to have the investments made in the fleet that have them just gleaming like new out at sea. So really beautiful.
Absolutely. And not only that, but, just to bring the godmothers in too. The passion that we have, our godmothers are just as passionate. So, I mean, we have Gloria Bohan, we have Wendy Perrin, we have, of course, our owner's wife, which is, it's just
Mrs. Anschutz. She's amazing. She was there for the 40-year anniversary.
Right.
Yes.
And she's such a gracious
Supporter.
woman as well. So, I just think that that's why our brand has grown to what it is. And it's the passion that absolutely every employee and everybody who touches our brand and our guests, oh my goodness, the passion our guests have. If you haven't been on the Facebook page, you would know they're very passionate.
I'm on that Facebook page
Yes,
every
you
day.
are.
And if you're not on the Facebook page, you should be. It's really amazing
Right.
to hear from our guests.
Absolutely.
Yes. And so we've talked about now 6 ships, but we're going to still continue to grow. And so we have 2 new ships on the horizon, the Star Seeker and the Star Explorer. And so I think that's really exciting because, we talk to travel advisors all the time and they love selling our brand. But they also want to know, once they bring their guests on board, where can they sail to next? And so we sail through so many destinations, and with these smaller ships, you can't go too far. And so it's important to have more ships to take our guests to more places. So do you want to talk about what you're most excited about these 2 new ships and where they're going?
I think I'm most excited that they're brand new. This is our chance to make an imprint on these ships from the very beginning. And just sitting in the meetings that I hear, Chris Prelog talking about, well, we're going to do this, or we're going to have a 2-story spa. And the fact is, we're creating this. I mean, this is a team that we're out there just building it as our dreams have always been. And I love that piece of it. So that's what I'm most excited about.
I love it.
The where we go, of course, is very important too. But unfortunately, we're so busy right now, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to go where these ships go. So
I'm definitely going to go, and I know you're going to be going too. Oops, that was... So speaking of Chris, actually, for those of you who are watching today, so that we're considering this our pilot, right? So we are just starting out with this podcast, and this is our pilot, but he will definitely be invited. He actually doesn't even know we're recording a podcast podcast right now, which is really exciting because we can't wait to show him the final product and for him to come and be our guest here. But he was just at the shipyard. And if you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, all the social media platforms, you probably know Chris, and you probably should be following his Instagram handle because he's going to keep you all up to date on the latest happenings for Windstar Cruises. Now, we talked about the travel advisor lightly, but I know it's very important because, people today traveling, all the ships that we sail with are internationally. There's a lot of, complexities to traveling internationally, and I think we definitely help make it easy, but even more easier, or I think once you make an investment into a travel vacation like Windstar, you want to use a travel advisor. And I know you work very hard on ensuring that everyone in the marketing organization can provide the tools to the travel advisors to sell Windstar. There are experts on the ground. So can you talk to those guests that have maybe considering using a travel advisor for booking Windstar, why they should use a travel advisor?
Well, the first one, it's kind of selfish. I hate to be on the telephone and I hate being on hold. And that is something that a travel advisor will do for you. So a travel advisor not only knows the destination, they know the brand, and they know their customers. And I think that those three things together is why it's the perfect recipe. But more importantly than that, when something goes wrong, do you want to spend your time on vacation trying to figure out, oh my goodness, my flight was canceled, or we're not going to be going to this port? This is the person that is your extended help in making those things happen. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't like to clean my own house. So I hire a professional to do it. And it's the same way. I mean, with travel, you might enjoy researching and finding out where you want to go and knowing where you want to go, and that's great because I like to do that part of it. But when it comes to actually booking it and being able to know what the best deals are and know what the best places to stay are, you absolutely need to use a travel professional.
Well, and I thought you were going to say the one that I think is also really great and amazing, which you really fight for internally in the office, and it's that sometimes they have a better deal on our cruises than booking directly through us. And I think that's pretty incredible because, they not only provide the services of convenience and knowing what, matching the right cruise line or the right vacation experience for you, but they're also going to they have pretty amazing, deals in terms of either an offer or an experience that maybe you can't go directly to a brand with. And so I think it really is a great thing. I know I talked to you over the weekend. I have a cousin of mine who's, getting married. They're both very busy millennials. And you would think millennials are not using a travel advisor. They would go online and research, but it's their honeymoon they're booking. It's a once in a lifetime vacation and they're going to spend, a lot of money. And so who are they going to call? A trusted travel advisor to book that vacation. And the same thing when it comes to cruising. These are, they're definitely not cheap, or they're an amazing value. And you want to contact the expert. And we have many star specialists, is what we call them, who've taken the training. They've sailed with us. They know our brand really well. They know our cruises and our itinerary, and they want to help you, design your beautiful next experience and journey with Windstar.
And I think they understand. If you ever look at any cruise line, we often use the same words. We often have the same pictures in the background. What a travel advisor knows is really what that means. What does it mean? For example, with Windstar, we are luxury, but we're a different type of luxury than some of these other small ship cruise lines. And they're able to really match the customer with the brand. And that helps us as a brand so that we always have happy guests on board. And we also have guests that like to, travel with each other because they're all very like-minded. But then you also, you've got the travel advisor who'll say, Windstar might not be the right one for you.
Right.
So, we have it both ways. They make sure that you get the vacation that you've been dreaming about.
Absolutely. And, it's funny that you brought up this topic because I have a journalist friend. We all have a journalist friend, Dory, who just posted over the weekend on LinkedIn, and she talked about, the most overused words in the travel industry. And I think right now for all small ship cruise brands, and I'm going to bring Patty, our head of marketing, for this discussion, I think we all need to stop using the same words. Right. Probably the most overused word in the industry, travel overall, is luxury.
Absolutely. We
We all want a luxurious experience, but that looks different for every single one of us. And it's actually creating confusion more than anything.
Well, look at you and I. Quite truthfully, luxury for me is a tent. Could you imagine you in a tent? Absolutely
A
not.
glam tent.
A glam tent. Well, I don't even know about that.
I know
but
she was going to go there. That's why I started laughing, because she's like, we could probably not go. We would enjoy the same vacation, but maybe you would probably be a little bit more extreme on the camping
Well,
side.
I mean, I even think about it. When we were in last year, I forget where we were. Well, we were in Rome. So
Yes.
where did you go when we were in
I
Rome?
went shopping.
Where?
In Via Condotti,
But where?
in Prada.
Okay. So,
But I was with my friend Ellen, and she knew someone, and it was a good deal. I do like to shop, but I always get a good deal. I'm very frugal.
But on the other hand, where was I? I went wine tasting.
I was going to say, you had your priorities. You love to drink wine.
I do, and I like wine tasting and wine and tasting more wine. But after wine tasting, I was looking for those discount stores. I was looking for that $10 store. So, I mean, we're very different, but
Yes.
we were both on the same sailing, and it was amazing.
And it was fabulous.
But luxury
and you know
is
what?
different.
We would meet up for dinner and then talk
Absolutely.
about, and I would give you FOMO, and then you would give me FOMO, because you would talk. I mean, I do like wine too, but if I had to choose one, shopping's going to win.
And wine's winning for me.
I love that. But we are going to talk about in our Europe, we're going to talk about the places we go, and that's going to be a whole other series, and we're going to have some guests on that. But since we're on this topic of wine,
Yes.
and yes, it may be January, February, or March, and we're all trying to start off the year with some kind of, dry January, dry February situation. But at least let's, talk about the future vacation we're going to have with Windstar and the wines they're going to be able to enjoy on board.
I thought it was Wine Wednesday. What did you call it?
It was Wine Wednesday. I know. Let's drink
No
wine Wednesday.
drinking. What did you say? No drinking January?
Yes.
Somebody missed that
I know.
for me.
I know. She was like, why are you doing that?
I missed that. I'm sorry. What did you say?
The wines on board.
Yes.
We're going to talk about Europe, and we're going to
Yes.
talk about the beautiful wines that are curated by
Yes.
Peter Tobler. We're actually going to have him come and join us. I think I'm looking at Madeline to see if we're going to have Peter on board,
Right.
And join us here during the podcast. But can you tell us about the selections of wine and why cruising with Windstar, not only from a culinary experience wise, is amazing, but I think we have a pretty good selection of wine.
We have a pretty good selection of wine. And I have to tell you, just today I booked my wine tasting trip out to help choose some of the wines for Windstar. So Peter Tobler is an amazing man. And I think that he's one of the things that has really, truly brought the name luxury to Windstar, because we handpick our wines. We don't just go to a wine broker and say, okay, we need these wines for the ship. He goes out, he hand tests every single one. I mean, he tastes them all. He knows the wine.
And sometimes he actually brings them to the office, and he does wine tasting in our office with our staff, which is pretty amazing, because I think all of our employees love it when he does that.
But on so we have a beverage package. On our beverage package, we have 36 wines that you can choose from our beverage package that are included. But in addition to that,
And he pairs them with the selection of whatever's being offered that day in the
does.
restaurant, which is
Right.
pretty cool.
right, and I think he'll have to answer this exactly, but I think we have over 200 bottles to purchase wine on board too. And of that, we have something very unique where we actually have vineyard only wines that we have on board our ship. And we get a small allotment of those that I don't even know another cruise line that has that. And this is where, like, if you were to go to Napa, for example, where you go in, you can only get this wine at the vineyard. We actually have it at the vineyard and on board our ships.
And you know what? I just recently learned that at a wine tasting at the office by Peter Tobler. So that's pretty amazing. And so I'm bought, I'm sold, I'm ready to go. Now, we're coming to the end of our segment here, and I wanted to ask you the questions that I plan to ask every single one of our guests that come here. And that is, what was your first Windstar cruise, and which one was the last you just got off of?
So my first one was on the Star Pride.
Okay.
And it was the Greek Isles. So,
Ooh.
and I loved it. It was Athens to Athens, and I went with my daughter and had an amazing time. My last one was the Canary Islands.
That's right.
So
Also on the Star Pride.
also, no, it was on the, was it on the Pride? It
was on the Pride, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
also on
yes.
the Star Pride. And I thought that was amazing. I guess I didn't even know what to expect in the Canary Islands. I think here in the U.S. or North America, we've heard of the Canary Islands, but it's very, very exotic. So
Yes.
no idea. It was amazing. I also didn't realize that it was 80 miles from Africa. I had no idea.
Yep.
Nor did the travel advisors that were on board with us necessarily. They
okay.
knew that of the region, but they didn't know how close our ships that were actually coming to there. So
Amazing.
that was pretty cool.
Well, and now the Star Pride, for those of you who don't know, is one of our motor yachts that was recently or during a few years ago cut in half and extended. But we also now have the experience with our sail ships And that is available also, I think, for 2025 and 2026, they'll be able to sail the Canary Islands on a sailboat. And that's pretty phenomenal.
It's pretty phenomenal. And I think that's going to be very unique for us there, because I don't know of another cruise line that actually has sailed the Canary Islands.
Yes.
Just like and we're very, very popular for sailing the Greek Isles. That's one of the things that make our Greek Isles sailings really a cut above all of our competitors.
I can't wait to go. I haven't done Greek Isles with Windstar, but it is our top-rated sailings and cruises, and you can either experience it on the motor yacht or the sailboat. So I highly recommend it, and let me know if you want someone to go along with you, just in case, because I do want to go and I need an excuse to go. But so you talked about the Canary Islands, and you're right. I think some cruise lines do pass and go through the Canary Islands on a transatlantic cruise, but just for a few hours, one destination. But there's so much to see. It's considered, like Chris, I think our president would go there on vacation. He's Austrian, and so he would go on vacation there, and he says that's the Hawaii of Europe. I mean, this is how beautiful these beautiful islands of the Mediterranean and European waters are. So definitely worth for you to go to.
You know, and we didn't really talk about it, but one of the things that makes our cruise line so special, and especially in the Canary Islands, is we're very port intensive. So you're not just coming in for the moment and then sailing away. We're there all day, and we had overnights. I mean, it was a really good way, I think, to see a lot of those small islands and really get a snippet of what the culture was all about.
Absolutely. And I think we went like in April, March timeframe. So when most of the country is really cold. I mean, I know right now we're going through a lot of cold weather across the United States and in Canada. And, you know, a lot of Europe also is very, very cold. It's wonderful to still be able to go to warmer weather destinations beyond the Caribbean that everybody goes to during the winter months. Okay, last question.
Yes.
If you had to recommend, and I'm going to ask everyone this question because I think it's important for our listeners and those viewing this. Okay, if I were to go on Windstar and I had only one cruise that you can recommend for a first-time Windstar guest, what would that cruise be?
I would say my absolute very favorite sailing, and I think the one that would be a really good starter for any new person coming in, is Italy Dalmatian Coast.
Okay.
And I like this one because, and I recommend starting in Venice and ending in Rome. It goes both ways.
Wait for it. Which ship?
On the Windsurf.
The Windsurf. Okay.
On the Windsurf.
Okay.
And my reasons for this is we're still small enough that we sail in Venice, which no one else does. I mean, it's amazing to do that. But imagine this. Here you are. You have this beautiful city. You've just seen St. Mark's Square. You're on your ship, and there you are, unfurling the sails. You're leaving port 4 or 6 o'clock, somewhere in there. And one by one, those sails are unfurling. You're standing on the deck with a glass of champagne.
Or wine.
And you're listening to 1492 Conquest of Paradise. I'm going to tell you right there, if you don't feel like a pirate in that moment, you never will.
Wow.
Like, it is an amazing, amazing experience. It's so beautiful and so fun. And truthfully, all the ports on that one, you go to Dalmatian, to, down through the Dalmatian coast, which you're going to be doing shortly. So you'll see. It's
That's
just
my town.
Amazing. It's just amazing.
I love Italy. I mean, that's the place everybody knows is where I met my husband in Rome. And I don't get bored of going to Italy. And sailing through Italy and that area of the world, from the Mediterranean to the Adriatic Sea and out to Greece. I mean, we're talking about beautiful places, and especially in the summer, because things are warmer in Europe in the summer, and to be on a ship and that breeze and being able to jump off of our water sports platforms. All of our ships have water sports platforms. That is an experience, right? Being able to stop and just, take a dip into these beautiful, beautiful Mediterranean waters, crystal clear blue and nice and refreshing. They're nice and cool. It's just, that is perfection. That's something that you definitely don't want to miss. And that should definitely be your first cruise with Windstar. I like that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here, Dianna, and going on this adventure with us here with our, podcast pilot filming. And I appreciate everyone and your patience as we're recording this. And we're doing this podcast for you. This is all about, telling our story to you all. The podcast name is Winds of Change. I think the world is changing. The cruise industry is evolving. And we're really wanting to talk about what is new with Windstar, Windstar, but also what sets us apart. And we're never going to forget our 40-year history. We've been here around for 40 years. And so it's important that everyone learns about this brand. And so we are excited. So please, if you have feedback, if you have anyone that you feel we should be bringing, if you want to learn more about Windstar, let us know in the comments. We are reading it. We're going to be engaging with you all. And we look forward to welcoming Dianna back very soon.
Looking forward to the next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to this amazing segment of the people of Windstar. And I am so excited to present our next guest because I think one of the things that stand Windstar apart is our crew. It is the people on board that welcome our guests every single sailing, every single week on board the entire fleet. And so this gentleman that I have here with me today, Andreas Pitsch, is actually calling from on board the ship. And so we're so grateful that he has taken this time off his very, very busy schedule to connect with you all today and tell you about his story of Windstar. Welcome, Andreas.
Hi, everybody. Nice to have me.
So excited to have you here. And Andreas is someone that if you follow him on social media, or his daughter actually, which we're going to talk about today, because I know she's just recently interviewed you on her YouTube channel. He's someone that definitely makes our guests laugh. And not only do you work very, very hard, but you do an amazing job of entertaining everyone and making sure that everything runs exactly how it should be every single week. So Andreas, for those of the people who are watching or listening that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about you and what exactly is your role at Windstar?
Okay, a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Austria, and I did spend the last 30 years in the cruise industry now, and I grew up all the way to become a hotel general manager, and that's my role today. And I'm lucky to say I still love it after 30 years.
Amazing. And what does a hotel general manager exactly do? What does that mean?
So I would say 80% of the operation on board is hotel department. So you have 10% in the engine, 10% in the deck department, and 80% of all the crew in the hotel department. That's from housekeeping, dining operations, spa operations, purchasing, provisioning, administration. That's all in the hotel department. And believe it or not, it's quite busy, and it never gets boring.
I'm sure of that. So what is it that keeps you coming back? Because I know, explain to them how that works. So you're on board a ship for X amount of time, right? And then you're away from your family for a long time. And then you get to go back home, relax and recharge. But then there's that time again that you have to leave your family behind and come back on board. Can you tell us a little bit about what drives you, what instills in you to come back every single time?
You know, it's funny when you're at the end of your contract, of course, you always look forward to go back home and to be with your loved ones. And we have actually a very good contract, 3 months on board and then 3 months home. And my wife is extremely happy when I come home for 3 months. Believe it, after 3 months at home, she's also happy when I go back to work again. And I'm very lucky in Windstar. You let me bring my family on board, and every contract they come a couple of weeks on board, and they really appreciate that. And that makes our time of separation a little bit shorter. And just to have the connection with everybody in the company makes you feel like you're appreciated, and that makes you happy when you go back to work.
Yeah. And so obviously you said you've had a very long career in the cruise industry, and this has not been your only cruise brand that you've worked for. But what do you feel from your point of view that sets Windstar apart from all the cruise lines that you worked for, or even the cruise lines that are out there? I'm sure you have many friends that you all talk to each other. And I mean, we're in this industry. We know all the different cruise brands. What sets Windstar apart?
So the interesting part is I grew up on the big ships, on the monster ships. So I started 30 years ago in 1995. And when you grew up there, you don't know better. You know, the ship's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. My first ship was 2,000 guests. Then all of a sudden you have 3,000 guests, 4,000 guests, up to 6,500 guests. And because you grew up there, you think it's just normal. In 2019, I got to talk to Mr. Tobler and Chris Prelock, and I got a job offer with Windstar, and I was scared at the beginning because I know our ships, they have between 148 and 342 guests. Now, one of the lifeboats on the big ships, they have 400 guests, one single lifeboat. So I was really scared going down a ship which has only 150, 200, 250 guests. And then I said to my wife, the biggest risk is not to take a risk. And I joined Windstar on July 1st, 2019. On July 2nd, 2019, I called my wife and I said, if I would have known how wonderful the atmosphere on a small ship like this is, I would have changed 20 years earlier. And I'm having the
Oh my
goosebumps
goodness.
now just talking about it.
Amazing. So, I want to bring up what you just said, because I think that's an interesting fact. And I don't remember who I heard it from, but maybe it was you. And I actually repeat this all the time, right? And you hear me say that all the time, which is, one of the lifeboats on one of these mega ships is 400 people, right? And our beautiful yachts, I'm not sure we're going to show a picture, but we're going to show a picture of our beautiful yachts that hold a maximum of 350 passengers. Only 350 passengers, exactly. So just perspective-wise, that's quite a difference in terms of the feeling that you have on board, right?
You could put all the guests from the Spirit and the Star on one lifeboat.
I know, that is pretty perspective. So speaking of, you obviously are on a sailboat right now, the Windsurf, but you've also, managed and operated our motor yachts, the Star Pride, the Star Legend, the Star Breeze in Tahiti. What do you think is the biggest difference between the two ships and operating those two ships?
I think the good thing is you still
If there's one.
Yeah, the good thing is you still see the brand, the Windstar brand, and that is the crew. Okay. No matter if you're on a sailboat or on a motorboat, the crew they're switching between ships. So wherever you go, you always find crew members from a previous ship, and we are just the same family. Some people prefer the nice luxury cabins on the motor vessels with the walk-in closet, the double sinks, and many people do prefer the sails on the sailboats. So I think everybody finds their favorite vessel, but most of the guests they jumping back and forward between sailboats and motor vessels and sailboats.
Because I think once they find out how amazing a Windstar experience is, it doesn't matter which ship or where they go, but they want to keep coming back. I think that's the case. So want to shift a little bit to our guests. So obviously we welcome guests from all over the world, but primarily in North America and Canada. And we have very loyal guests that have sailed with us multiple times. And I know when they speak about you said it, it's a family on board for the crew, but it's also, for our guests, when they come back, they call it their home at sea. They say when they step on board a Windstar ship, their saddest day is that last day when they're packing up and having to go home, right? And so I know when you get happy that your time is over to go home, our guests are sad to go back home. So can you tell us a little bit about the Windstar guests? Because I think it's important to note that not all cruise lines are equal. And we have a special guest group of people who come on board and join us each and every week, or sometimes they join us for 30 days, 100 days, and sail for a very long time. And so what do you think are things that set our guests apart?
What set our guests apart is also something which makes me extremely happy, because every turnaround, every embarkation, when we're welcoming our guests, I'm at the gang with 2-3 hours to welcome every single one and introduce myself. And there's nothing better when you stand there from far away, you have people waving and say, "Oh my God, Andreas, it's so great seeing you." And they get so excited. And you feel like this is like home, because those are friends, those are family. For example, right now on Saturday on the Windsurf, we have Dan and Gail joining us, and they're going to be on board for 8 weeks. So they know everybody on board. They are our greatest. They are just amazing. They love the product, they love the crew, and they know everybody. And they bring in so many other guests, because the best advertisement is when you have the guests talking about their experience, better than a brochure or a video or anything else.
Cannot agree with you more. It's honestly, our guests are our greatest advocates. And I think it's really hard to do the marketing side, to bring people on board and convince them that this is the right cruise for them. It's when they hear it from their, friends, and they say what a wonderful time they had on board, and they describe it and articulate it so wonderfully. They truly are our best advocates. So we've talked about our guests. We've talked about your role. Now I want to talk about the world, because I think you've probably been to every port of call on a Windstar cruise ship. And so from all of the destinations that you've traveled around, which one is your favorite?
It's a very challenging question. It's like when you ask me what's your favorite movie, there's so many good movies. I need to narrow it down to one. I have lots of favorite destinations. If you ask me for one single destination, I'm going to pick the Costa del Sol, Malaga, for a couple of reasons. for a couple of reasons. Number one, our ships dock right in downtown. So you get off the gangway, you cross the road, you're right in the middle of where everything happens. It's a beautiful city. The streets are marble, shopping, dining. You can go hiking, museum. You can do so many things in Malaga. But also, to tell you a secret, I live in Malaga with my wife and my daughter. So it's like going home, you know? And there's nothing better. Every time when we sail in the morning at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, the sun is rising. You can smell the olive trees. You see some dolphins jumping. It's just the best feeling, almost the best feeling in the world.
I love that you said Malaga, because our next episode, actually, for those of you watching, we are going to have an entire episode on Europe. And I think also, you know, if Chris Prelog, our president, was here, he would say somewhere in Tahiti, of course, because we know that's his favorite destination. But I would say I'm Mrs. Mediterranean. To me, take me anywhere in Europe and I will be happy. And Spain is one that we sail actually now year round, which is, we're probably one of the only cruise lines that do that, where you can go and visit Spain, Italy, France year round. And that's pretty iconic, because these are destinations that you can go any time of year, January through December. It's a good time to go to Europe, to these beautiful destinations. So I love, love, love that you said that. Now, I talked about your favorite destination, but now going back to our guests, if you were talking to a first timer, meaning they want to sail on Windstar, they've never been on Windstar Cruise, what is the first itinerary you would recommend for them to sail?
Every cruise, I have several guests asking me what's my favorite itinerary. And
Okay.
I always give them the same answer. Everybody has a different light. But my favorite itineraries in the summer, it's the Mediterranean. Because
Okay.
again, when you sail from Spain, Monaco, Italy, Greece, up and down, it's just beautiful. The weather, the culinary offerings, the markets, is just beautiful. And in the winter, I like to be in the Caribbean somewhere, because for me to be happy all the time, to smile all the time, and it's sunshine, blue sky.
Yes. You have a great tan, by the way. I can see you're in the Caribbean now.
It's a farmer's
I-
tan, only here and there.
I love that. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you were saying.
So yeah, Mediterranean and the Caribbean, because it's nice. I need warm weather, sunshine, palm trees, crystal clear blue turquoise water. I would have picked maybe Tahiti as well, but I have not been there yet. So in my 30 years, this is still on my bucket list.
Huh.
But right now, I'm happy where I am.
Well, I have Stain coming, because he's going to be the next person here for this People of Windstar series and segment. So we'll have to talk about sending you to Tahiti at one point. How about that?
What you asked for, because the last 3 years I was asking for Tahiti and they sent me to Iceland. So
Very opposite of that. Andreas, it's been such a pleasure to have you here. I know how busy you are on board, and I know that this has been, taking time off your very busy day to come and join us. But I think it's so important for the people to listen directly from our beloved crew members. And I know you're someone that always, comes up top in terms of people love you. The crew loves working with you. And I know that you run a really tight ship, literally, but you deliver an exceptional experience. So thank you for all that you do. And hopefully you'll be able to come back very soon.
thank you, Janet. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.